I'm Deborah Schildkraut. I'm a professor of political science at Tufts University. Have you ever been hanging out with your friends in your town and some of the local police officers come over and ask you what you're up to and why you're hanging out? How we deal with crime is one of the big problems we have in society for balancing our freedoms to be left alone, our freedom from excessive government intervention into our lives, but also the need for order and public safety. The Supreme Court has ruled that if police officers see someone that they suspect may be involved in wrongdoing or may be about to be involved in wrongdoing, that they can stop and question that person if they have a reasonable suspicion. If during that questioning, the police officer then becomes even more suspicious, they are allowed to search that person's pockets, search the person's backpacks. This type of issue has been at the center of some controversial so-called stop and frisk policies in cities across the country, especially in New York City. The question is, what factors do police officers use to try to determine who might be engaged in wrongdoing or be thinking about doing something that violates the law? Can they use someone's race, someone's gender, someone's age, the neighborhood that they happen to be walking through? Now, technically, they're not allowed to use things like someone's race alone as the sole basis. We know, however, that it tends to be the case that younger males who are non-white are often subject to these stops more often than others. And this creates problems in terms of how people feel about the criminal justice system in the country, whether or not they can trust police officers, and simply whether or not they feel welcome in the communities where they live. So questions we have to answer as we think about these policies is, what are the criteria that police officers should be allowed to use when deciding who they're going to stop and question? Is it enough for them to simply have a hunch that someone looks like they're up to no good? And at what lengths are we willing to go to in order to make sure that we have safe streets? Are we willing to have more risk of crime in order to make sure that people feel that they're not targeted unfairly simply because of who they are or where they happen to be? These are really difficult questions and ones that continually come up in issues of criminal justice and civil liberties.